Victal had seen many executions in his 12 cycles of service at the Helix Dominion prison complex, but never one quite like this. The human female stood in the processing chamber, her wrists bound in energy cuffs that hummed with a low, threatening frequency. Her name was Elena, according to the datapad Victal clutched in his lower left hand. Convicted of espionage. Sentenced to... Well, that was the interesting part, wasn't it? You understand what amuses me most about your species? Administrator Quelix circled Elena like a scavenger bird eyeing carrion. His twin cranial ridges gleamed under the harsh lighting, and his voice carried that particular tone of superiority that made Victal's stomach plates clench. You actually believe you matter. That your little rebellion, your pathetic attempts at gathering intelligence, could possibly threaten the Dominion. Elena said nothing. Her dark eyes tracked Quelix's movement, but her face remained blank. Victal noticed her jaw was set tight, muscles working beneath the skin. Terrified, probably. Most prisoners were by this point. Take her to Habitat 7, Quelix ordered, waving a dismissive hand. Activate the Vrakken cubs. Victal's secondary heart skipped a beat. Administrator, the cubs haven't been fed in 6 rotations. Protocol suggests exactly nothing, Guard Victal. Quelix turned those cold, amber eyes on him. The cubs are hungry. This human is food. The mathematics are quite simple, even for someone of your limited rank. Right, of course. Victal had learned long ago not to question Quelix's decisions, not if he wanted to keep his position or his head. He guided Elena down the corridor, his weapon held at a professional distance. She walked steadily, not struggling, not begging. Humans were strange that way. Some of them screamed and fought until the very end. Others went quiet, retreating into whatever mental space helped them cope with the inevitable. The cubs, Elena said suddenly. Her voice was rougher than Victal expected, like gravel scraping across metal. What are they? Victal's translator chip processed her language easily enough. Vrakken, apex predators from Thorn 9. We use them for various purposes. Killing purposes, you mean? Yes. No point in lying. She'd figure it out soon enough. The habitat entrance loomed ahead, a massive circular door that resembled the mouth of some ancient beast. Through the observation window, Victal could see the environment inside. Rocky terrain, a few twisted trees that had been imported at great expense. A water dispenser built into the far wall. It looked almost peaceful, if you ignored the scratch marks on every surface and the old bloodstains that maintenance never quite managed to scrub away. Any last requests? Victal asked. It was customary, though most prisoners just cursed or spat. Elena looked at him directly for the first time. Her eyes were brown, he noticed. A deep, rich brown that reminded him of fertile soil on his home planet, back before the Dominion had strip-mined it for resources. Yeah. Tell whoever's watching that I hope they choke on their entertainment. Fair enough. The door cycled open with a pneumatic hiss. Victal removed her restraints and gave her a small push forward, not rough, just enough to clear the threshold. The moment she crossed it, the door slammed shut with brutal finality. Magnetic locks engaged with a series of heavy clunks that echoed through the corridor. Victal moved to the observation station, where 3 other guards had already gathered. Betting pools were being organized on datapads. How long would she last? Would the cubs go for the throat first or the limbs? Would she run or fight? 10 credits says she's down in under 5 minutes. Guard Yelena announced, her mandibles clicking with amusement. 20 says she tries to climb one of the trees, another guard added. They always try to climb. Victal said nothing. He just watched the monitors. Inside the habitat, Elena stood very still, her chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. She was looking around, taking in her surroundings with what appeared to be tactical assessment. Smart. Not that it would help. A low growl rumbled from the holding pen on the eastern side of the habitat. Elena's head snapped toward the sound. The pen door opened, an automated function triggered by Quelix from his office. 3 shapes emerged, low-slung and dangerous. The Vrakken cubs were each roughly the size of an adult human torso, covered in mottled gray and black fur that helped them blend with the rocky terrain. Their eyes glowed with a sickly yellow light, reflective membranes designed for hunting in low visibility. 6 legs each, powerful and tipped with claws that could shred through standard armor plating. Mouths full of serrated teeth that could crush bone, and they were starving. "Here we go," Elena said, leaning forward with interest. The cubs spread out immediately, instinct overriding their weakened state. Pack hunting tactics. Surround the prey, cut off escape routes, coordinate the kill. They'd been trained since birth for this, even if they were still young. Elena backed up slowly, her hands raised in a gesture that looked almost placating. Was she talking to them? Victal increased the audio feed. Okay, I know you're hungry. I get it. You're scared and angry, and someone's been treating you like garbage, haven't they? The largest cub, the female, snarled and took a lunging step forward. Elena flinched, but held her ground. "Yeah, that's what I thought." Elena's voice trembled slightly, but she kept it steady. "Listen, I know this looks like feeding time to you, but here's the thing. I'm not your enemy. The real enemy is watching us right now, hoping we'll tear each other apart for his amusement." Is she attempting diplomacy with predators? Guard Elena's laughter was sharp and cruel. Oh, this is even better than expected. The cubs circled closer. One of them, the smallest, was limping. Elena noticed it too. Her eyes tracked the cub's movement, and Victal saw her expression shift from fear to something else. Something that looked disturbingly like concern. "You're hurt," Elena said softly, addressing the limping cub. "Your back left leg. Infected, maybe? That's why you're hanging back while the others take point." The injured cub growled, but it was a weaker sound. Defensive rather than aggressive. Elena did something that made every guard at the observation station freeze. She slowly removed her jacket, a thin, synthetic material that wouldn't provide much protection, and held it in front of her like a barrier. Then she crouched down, making herself smaller, less threatening. "I'm not going to hurt you," she said. "I'm not food. I'm a person, okay? And you're people too, in your own way. Someone's been starving you, neglecting you, turning you into weapons. But that's not who you are. Not really." "She's insane," one of the guards muttered. The fear broke her brain. But Victal wasn't so sure. There was something calculated about her movements. Something that spoke of experience rather than madness. She was reading the cub's body language, responding to their cues, trying to communicate in a way they might understand. The largest cub lunged. Elena threw her jacket over its head and rolled sideways, not running, just repositioning. The cub shook off the fabric with an angry yowl, but didn't immediately attack again. It seemed confused. "See? I'm fast enough to dodge you, but I'm not running away. I'm not prey." Elena's breathing was heavy now, adrenaline clearly pumping through her system. "And you know what else? I'm the only one in this place who's going to give you water without strings attached." She started moving toward the water dispenser, slowly, keeping her body angled so she could watch all 3 cubs. The injured one followed at a distance, curiosity apparently overriding hunger. The other 2 stalked her, waiting for an opening. Elena reached the dispenser and activated it. Cool, clean water flowed into the basin. She cupped her hands, filled them, and then poured the water onto the ground in front of the injured cub. The cub stared at the puddle, then at Elena, then back at the puddle. "Go on," Elena urged. "You need it more than the others. That infection's probably giving you a fever." After a long, tense moment, the injured cub limped forward and began lapping at the water. The other 2 cubs snarled in protest, but Elena quickly filled more water and created puddles for them too. All 3 cubs drank, deeply, desperately. At the observation station, nobody was laughing anymore. "This is wrong," Guard Elena said slowly. "They should have attacked by now. Cubs that hungry don't hesitate." Victal watched Elena sit down on the rocky ground, her back against the wall, exhaustion written across her features. The cubs finished drinking and turned toward her again, but their body language had shifted. Less aggressive, more wary. "Water first," Elena told them, her eyes already drooping with fatigue. "Food tomorrow if they bother feeding me. And if they do, we share. That's the deal. You don't eat me, I don't let you die of neglect. Partners, not prey and predator. Think about it." She closed her eyes, either from exhaustion or trust or sheer recklessness. The cubs watched her. One of them, the youngest, took a tentative step closer, sniffed her leg, growled softly, but didn't bite. Victal's communicator buzzed. Quelix's voice crackled through, sharp with irritation. "What is happening? Why is the human still alive?" I don't know, Administrator. The cubs aren't attacking." "Then make them attack. Release the stimulus drones. Increase their aggression response." "Sir, if we do that..." "Do it now, Guard Victal, or find yourself in a habitat of your own." Victal's hand hovered over the control panel. He looked at the monitor, at Elena slumped against the wall, at the 3 confused cubs who seemed to be guarding her rather than hunting her. He pressed the button. Nothing happened. The cubs remained calm. "Sir, the aggression stimulus isn't working. I think they've imprinted on her somehow." The communicator went dead. Victal could imagine Quelix's fury, the way his cranial ridges would flush purple with rage. On the monitor, Elena opened one eye and looked directly at the camera. For just a moment, Victal could have sworn she smiled. This wasn't an execution. This was something else entirely. And Victal had the unsettling feeling that Administrator Quelix had made a terrible, terrible mistake. 3 rotations passed, and Victal found himself checking the habitat monitors more frequently than his duties required. Elena was still alive. More disturbingly, she was thriving. The human had established what could only be described as a routine with the cubs. Every morning, she'd wake before the artificial sun cycle began and distribute water. She'd torn strips from her uniform to create makeshift bandages for the injured cub's leg, changing them daily, using water to clean the wound. The infection was clearing. Victal had seen enough combat injuries to recognize healing when he saw it. "This is unprecedented," Guard Elena muttered, her earlier amusement replaced by genuine bewilderment. "Vrakken don't form attachments. They're killing machines. We've tested this thousands of times." "Apparently nobody told the human that," Victal replied. On screen, Elena was demonstrating something peculiar. She'd fashioned a crude toy from twisted fabric and was dragging it across the ground. The youngest cub pounced on it, shaking the material viciously while making pleased growling sounds that Victal had never heard from a Vrakken before. The other two cubs watched with what appeared to be interest, their tails twitching in a pattern that typically indicated curiosity rather than aggression. "She's playing with them?" Elena sounded personally offended by this development. "It appears so, yes." Administrator Quelix arrived at the observation station with the subtlety of an orbital strike. His cranial ridges were indeed flushed purple, and his movements carried barely contained violence. "Explain to me, Guard Victal, why that human continues to breathe?" Victal gestured at the monitors. "As you can see, Administrator, the Vrakken have not responded to standard aggression protocols. The human has somehow established herself as non-threatening within their social hierarchy." "Social hierarchy? They're animals, weapons. They don't have social anything." Quelix slammed his fist against the console. "Increase her food rations." Every guard turned to stare at him. "Sir?" Victal's confusion was genuine. "You heard me. Double her portions. I want those cubs to see her as a food source. They'll turn on her eventually when their hunger overcomes whatever psychological manipulation she's employing." It was terrible logic, but Victal knew better than to argue. He programmed the dispenser accordingly. The next feeding cycle arrived. Elena approached the dispenser and stopped short when she saw the increased portion. 2 protein bars instead of 1. An extra water ration. Her expression flickered through confusion, then understanding, then something that looked dangerously close to defiance. She picked up the first protein bar and immediately broke it into 4 pieces. 3 for the cubs, 1 for herself. No. Quelix practically vibrated with rage. "She's supposed to eat it. Make them jealous. Make them attack." But the cubs accepted their portions eagerly, making those strange, pleased sounds again. The largest one, the female, rubbed her massive head against Elena's leg in what could only be interpreted as affection. Elena ate her quarter portion slowly, savoring each bite. Then she did something that made Victal's secondary heart stop completely. She started singing. The words were in her human language, untranslated, but the melody was haunting and beautiful. The cubs settled around her, their glowing eyes half closed, their breathing synchronized with her rhythm. The injured one rested its head on her lap while she gently stroked its fur. "She's domesticated them," Guard Elena whispered. "In less than a week, she's turned apex predators into pets." "Impossible," Quelix spat. But the evidence was undeniable. Victal thought about his own species, about how the Dominion had conquered them through superior firepower and ruthless efficiency. Violence and fear. Those were the tools of empire. Yet here was a single human, stripped of weapons and technology, achieving something the Dominion's best trainers couldn't accomplish with years of conditioning. She'd won through compassion. 20 rotations had transformed everything. The cubs were no longer cubs. They'd grown exponentially, each now massing roughly twice Elena's weight, their muscles rippling beneath glossy fur that she groomed daily with her fingers. Their eyes still glowed yellow, but the sickly tinge had vanished, replaced by brilliant amber that tracked movement with lethal precision. And Elena moved with them like she'd been born to it. Victal watched the morning hunt unfold on his monitor with something approaching awe. Administrator Quelix had ordered automated prey drones released into the habitat, mechanical constructs designed to test combat readiness. They were fast, armed with low-level shock weapons, and programmed with evasion patterns that mimicked actual prey behavior. Elena crouched behind a rocky outcrop, her hand raised. The 3 Vrakken flanked her position, perfectly spaced. She whistled 3 sharp notes. The female moved left. Another whistle, 2 notes. The males split right and center. The prey drone skittered into the clearing, its sensors sweeping for threats. Elena's hand dropped. The Vrakken exploded into coordinated motion. The female cut off the drone's primary escape route, while the injured male, now fully healed and devastatingly fast, drove it toward the youngest. Elena sprinted from cover, sliding beneath the drone's shock field and yanking a critical power coupling from its undercarriage. The machine stuttered, slowed, and the youngest Vrakken pounced, crushing its chassis with powerful jaws. Total elapsed time, 11 seconds. "She's hunting," Victal said unnecessarily. "With them, as pack leader." Guard Yelena had stopped mocking weeks ago. Now she just looked disturbed. No human should be capable of this. Their reflexes aren't fast enough. Their strength isn't sufficient. This violates basic biological limitations. But Elena had proven that cooperation exceeded raw physical capability. The Vrakken provided strength and speed. She provided strategy and precision. Together, they were formidable. Administrator Quelix appeared behind them. And for the first time since Victal had known him, the administrator looked uncertain. "Release the Apex-class drones, all 3. "Sir, those are rated for trained Dominion shock troops. They're lethal even to armored personnel. Do it." Victal hesitated, his fingers hovering over the controls. Apex-class drones had killed guards during training exercises. They were designed to hunt and eliminate military targets, not provide sport for prisoners. He activated them anyway. What choice did he have? 3 massive shapes materialized in the habitat, each standing twice Elena's height, bristling with weaponry and armored plating. Their sensors locked onto organic signatures immediately. Elena saw them and went absolutely still. The Vrakken tensed, reading her body language. For the first time in weeks, Victal saw fear flash across her face. Then she smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It was the expression of someone who'd been pushed too far and decided to push back. She whistled a pattern Victal had never heard before, complex and layered. The Vrakken responded instantly, spreading into attack formation. Elena grabbed a rock, hefted it, and threw it at the nearest drone's optical sensor array. What followed was chaos transformed into art. Elena used the terrain, luring drones into bottlenecks where the Vrakken could strike from above. She exploited their programming, triggering targeting conflicts that made them hesitate. When one drone cornered her, the female Vrakken hit it like a guided missile, tearing through armor plating that should have been impenetrable. The injured male, the one she'd healed first, fought with particular savagery. When a drone's blade sliced across Elena's shoulder, drawing blood, that Vrakken went berserk, dismantling the machine with terrifying efficiency. 15 minutes later, 3 Apex-class drones lay in sparking ruins. Elena stood in the center of the carnage, bleeding but alive, surrounded by her pack. She looked directly at the camera and raised one finger in a gesture that needed no translation. At the observation station, betting pools had reversed entirely. Guards were now wagering on when, not if, she would escape. Quelix stared at the monitors, his expression unreadable. Seal the habitat. Nobody goes in or out. I need to contact High Command. Victal had a terrible suspicion that High Command wasn't going to like what they heard. 83 rotations after her imprisonment, the facility's power grid experienced what the official report would later call a catastrophic malfunction. Victal knew better. Power grids didn't just fail in maximum security prisons, not without help. The emergency lights bathed everything in crimson as alarms shrieked through the corridors. Victal ran toward his station, his weapon drawn, his mind racing through protocols. Lockdown procedures, containment measures, damage assessment. He rounded the corner and froze. Habitat 7's door stood open, the massive circular entrance yawning like a wound in the facility's security. And standing in that doorway, silhouetted against the emergency lighting, was Elena. The 3 fully grown Vrakken flanked her, each now massing over 300 kilograms of pure predatory power. Their eyes blazed in the darkness, tracking every movement, every potential threat. Elena's shoulder wound had healed into a scar. Her uniform was more patched than original fabric. Her hair had grown wild, but her eyes, those deep brown eyes, burned with an intensity that made Victal's breath catch. "Hello, Victal," she said calmly. "You've been kinder than the others. I've noticed. So I'm giving you a choice right now. Walk away or try to stop me. But understand, if you choose the second option, I can't protect you from them." The female Vrakken growled low and menacing, as if emphasizing the point. Victal's weapon felt heavy in his hand. He thought about his career, his position, his duty to the Dominion. Then he thought about the past 83 rotations, watching Elena transform imprisonment into something the Dominion had never anticipated. Watching her show more mercy to 3 predators than the Dominion had shown to entire, conquered species. He lowered his weapon. "The political prisoners are in Block Theta, access code 793 Alpha. The wrongly convicted are scattered through Blocks Delta and Kappa." Elena's expression softened. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Quelix has already called for reinforcements. You have maybe 20 minutes before Dominion shock troops arrive. Then we'd better hurry." She moved like liquid shadow down the corridor, the Vrakken flowing around her with practiced coordination. Victal found himself following, his weapon now aimed at protecting rather than capturing. What was he doing? This was treason. This was career suicide. This was probably literal suicide. But it felt right in a way nothing had felt right for cycles. They reached Block Theta. Elena's fingers flew across the control panel with surprising familiarity. Had she been studying the prison system somehow? The doors hissed open, revealing dozens of prisoners, their expressions shifting from confusion to hope. "Anyone who wants freedom, follow me," Elena announced. "Anyone who wants revenge, stay behind. I'm offering escape, not a massacre." A tall alien with cobalt skin and 4 arms stepped forward. "You're the human, the one with the beasts. We've heard the guards talking." "That's me. And they're not beasts, they're my family. Now, are you coming or not?" The prisoners streamed out, a growing tide of liberation. Elena led them through corridors that Victal helped navigate, his knowledge of the facility's layout proving invaluable. They freed more prisoners, carefully selecting those imprisoned for political resistance or judicial corruption, avoiding the violent offenders that even Elena admitted were too dangerous to release. Then they encountered Administrator Quelix. He stood at the central intersection with 10 guards, all armed, all terrified. Quelix himself held a plasma rifle that hummed with deadly potential. "This ends now, human. Whatever trick you used to open that door, it's over. Surrender, and I'll make your death quick." Elena stepped forward, and the Vrakken moved with her. The injured male, her first friend, positioned himself directly between her and Quelix's weapon. "You know what your problem is, Administrator?" Elena's voice carried across the space, clear and strong. You never understood that strength isn't about domination. It's about connection. You starved these magnificent creatures, tortured them, tried to turn them into mindless weapons. And when I showed them basic decency, basic kindness, they became more loyal than any soldier you've ever commanded. They're animals. No, you're the animal. You just hide it behind bureaucracy and titles. Quelix raised his rifle. The Vrakken tensed. Victal found himself aiming at his own superior officer, his weapon steady, despite his trembling hands. "Administrator," Victal said carefully, "look around. You're outnumbered, outmatched. Let them go." "Traitor," Quelix spat. "I'll see you executed alongside her." "Maybe, but not today." Elena whistled, a short commanding burst. The Vrakken didn't attack. Instead, they roared in unison, a sound so primal and terrifying that 3 guards dropped their weapons immediately. The walls seemed to vibrate with the force of it. Quelix's rifle wavered. "You have a choice," Elena said. "Lower your weapon, open the hangar bay, and live. Or try to stop us and discover exactly how effective 3 Vrakken can be in close quarters. I've trained them well, Administrator, but I've also taught them restraint. The question is, have you earned that mercy?" The silence stretched. Victal could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his auditory canals. Finally, Quelix lowered his rifle. "You won't get far. The Dominion's reach is infinite." "Maybe, but today it falls short." Elena moved past him, the freed prisoners following. Victal provided the hangar access codes, watching as they boarded a transport vessel designed for supply runs. It wasn't military grade, but it was fueled and functional. Before boarding, Elena turned back to Victal. "Come with us." He wanted to. The temptation was overwhelming, but he shook his head. "Someone needs to stay behind. Delete the records. Buy you time. Make sure Quelix doesn't launch pursuit too quickly. You'll be punished." "I know. But I've been complicit in this place's cruelty for too long. Time I paid for that." Elena squeezed his shoulder, a brief contact that somehow conveyed gratitude, respect, and farewell all at once. Then she boarded the ship with her unlikely family. Victal watched the transport lift off, its engines screaming into the night sky. He walked calmly to the communications center and systematically began deleting files, corrupting databases, erasing everything the Dominion might use to track her. When Quelix and his guards finally reached him, Victal was reviewing the last remaining footage. Elena's first day versus her last. From terrified prisoner to confident leader. From victim to victor. He smiled as they placed him in restraints. Some revolutions started with weapons and warfare. Others started with a single act of compassion in a place designed to crush hope. Elena had proven that even in the Dominion's darkest corners, humanity's greatest strength wasn't violence or technology. It was the stubborn, irrational, beautiful refusal to stop caring. As the guards dragged him away, Victal pressed the final delete command. The footage vanished? All of it. Every moment of Elena's transformation, her impossible bond with the Vrakken, her tactical brilliance, gone from Dominion records, but burned forever into his memory. And somewhere out in the infinite dark, a human and 3 apex predators flew toward freedom, carrying with them a lesson the Dominion would spend cycles trying to understand. You cannot crush what refuses to break. You cannot kill what learns to adapt. And you cannot defeat those who choose connection over conquest. The Helix Dominion had isolated Elena with hungry predators, expecting her destruction. Instead, she became their Huntress, their guardian, their pack leader. And in doing so, she'd started something that no amount of military force could contain. Hope spreads faster than fear. Always has, always will.